for informal workers across Africa. For those who may not know me, my name is Jane Master. I work for StreetNet International as the organizer for East and Southern Africa. I'm based in Nairobi, Kenya, and I'm honored to serve as your moderator today. So on behalf of SNI team, partners, and all the stakeholders committed to this cause, thank you for taking the time to join us. Just to introduce the purpose of this webinar today. So today we are here to discuss and amplify the social protection platforms of demand for Africa, which is a very critical framework that articulates the needs, the rights, priorities, and the priorities for the informal workers in the region. This platform is more than just a document. It is a roadmap for action, advocacy, and accountability. Together during this webinar, we'll explore its key components, hear from inspiring voices, and engage in a very collaborative discussion on how to turn these demands into transformative change. So this webinar, in short, brings together an incredible array of stakeholders. We have fellow informal workers and leaders and their representatives, policymakers, researchers, and our partners. We'll be hearing diverse perspectives that reflect the reality on the ground and the potential solutions that can move us forward. So without wasting so much time, we had put some time for our president to officially welcome you to our webinar today. But I'm sure in the course of the discussions, she'll be able to join us and welcome us. But for the interest of time, I'm briefly going to introduce our speakers today. So we'll have our main speaker, Laura Alphas. Laura Alphas has been the director of the Social Protection Department at WIGO, and will be taking the role of the international coordinator from 1st January 2025. So Laura will be talking to us about using the regional platform to advance advocacy in efforts in African countries, giving us an analysis of the national context. And from SNI's affiliates, we're going to hear on the experiences and some of the case studies. We also have with us our affiliates who are also part of the leadership of StreetNet International. We have Comrade Benga from the Federation of Informal Workers Organization of Nigeria, FIWON. We also have Comrade Anthony Kwache, who is the president of the Kenya National Alliance of Street Vendors and Informal Traders. And we also have our Comrade Komi from FENATRUST Togo, who is also our regional focal point coordinator for West and Central Africa. So without wasting so much time, I'm now going to welcome Comrade Laura to give us a presentation of the African Regional Platform of Demands on Social Protection. Laura, you have the floor. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Jane. And it's wonderful to be here again, talking about the platform. It's been a great initiative over several years for us to get to the point of having a platform. And what I'm going to do is go through it with you, spend some time explaining what the platform says and why the platform says what it says. And I'm very pleased to see that there will be a lot of time after the speakers where you can make comments and input into the platform, because this platform is meant to be a living document. It's meant to be your platform of demands, StreetNet's platform of demands, and it's meant to reflect your concerns regarding social protection. So I will try and speak for about 20 minutes to give you an overview. I just need to find the is this in slideshow mode? There we go. Okay. So the first thing that is important about social protection is that we need to have the right legal frameworks in place. And so we've started the framework with a section on the law and legal frameworks. And by the way, just to say that the original platform text was developed in, I think it was 2022 at a regional meeting in Nigeria, where about, I think, 10 or 11 of StreetNet's African affiliates were present, and we developed the draft text of the platform. And since then, we have presented the platform at several of the regional meetings and gathered more input into the text. So this is where this text is coming from. So on legal frameworks, obviously many things stem from the law. If we don't have the right legal frameworks in place, then it becomes much more difficult to get the kind of programs and policies that we need. And also, if there isn't a legal backing for the programs that we are asking for, it's much easier for them to change. Different governments can come in and change things. So it's really important that we get the law right. And so what are we asking for about the law? The first thing is that a lot of the law that governs social protection is the same law that governs labor rights in general, right? And part of the problem is that self-employed workers in the informal economy are not recognized as workers. So what we're arguing is that the focus should shift from the employment relationship, from an employer and employee focus, to one where the focus is on work and workers. And so we want to make sure that all legal frameworks recognize that, so that self-employed workers can also be included in labor and social protections. We also argue that the government must ratify and domesticate global and regional legal frameworks regarding the extension of social protection. So in international law, sorry, could I ask that whoever is unmuted, could they mute? I'm just struggling to concentrate. Perhaps somebody from StreetNet, one of the hosts could mute.
I'm trying to understand who's coming.
Okay, thank you.
Olambic Kiamio is speaking.
It's Olabimpe, yeah. Okay, thank you. So we have international conventions. We have the ILO Convention 102 on Social Security Minimum Standards. We have the very famous ILO Recommendation 204 on the transition from informality to formality. Both of those instruments say that workers in the informal economy should have access to social protection. And more recently, we also have the Protocol to the African Charter on Human Rights, on the rights of citizens to social protection and social security. And in that African Union Charter, there is a special clause for workers in the informal economy, which also states that workers in the informal economy must have access to social protection. So what we are asking is that governments look at their national laws and make sure that their national laws conform to these international and regional legal standards, to ensure that these international rights are made meaningful to workers in the informal economy. The third point, though, is that we are also saying that these legal reforms are important, but that they shouldn't stay as legal reforms alone. Because sometimes what happens is that you get a reform, a legal reform, and that's it. That's where it ends. And workers on the ground do not feel that, right? So when we are seeing legal battles being fought, when we are seeing shifts towards more supportive legislation, we must also be asking government to give us realistic and actionable plans for the implementation. And implementation which includes the participation of our organizations, of organizations of workers in the informal economy. So that's the law. In the second part of the protocol, we look at the really important issue of financing, because it's all very well for us to demand that social protection programs exist, but we often have to give ideas to the government about how they are going to finance those social protection programs, right? Because that is always going to be the first question. Where are we going to find the money to make sure that these programs exist in reality? So we have a few principles and a few ideas for governments. And this is, I think the financing section is the longest section of the protocol. The first is that we want the financing as a principle, that we want the financing of social protection to be based on solidarity principles. So we want richer people to contribute relatively more of their income and poorer people to contribute relatively less of their income, and to use the greater income that we get from those who are better off to cross-subsidize those who are poorer. So we often say that this means from each according to her ability, to each according to her needs, right? So people who need more should get more. People who are relatively better off need less. We'd also like to see specific government, specific targets in government budgets for spending on social protection programs. So I'm not sure if any of you attended our WeGo social protection school on financing of social protection. We did some exercises to understand how government budgets work. And to look and see whether there are specific targets for spending on social protection. And this is something that organizations need to learn how to do, is to analyze the budgets to see what the spending on social protection is and to see whether it's sufficient. And not all governments will have specific targets on social protection. So we want to make sure that they are there, because otherwise, it might be that you get a social protection program, but the benefits that you receive under that social protection program are not adequate. Thirdly, social protection relies a lot on the gathering of general taxation. And we know that in many low-income or even middle-income countries, it is difficult for governments to collect sufficient taxation to finance social protection. What we do not want to see is government instituting taxation programs which disproportionately fall on poorer workers in the informal economy, right? So, for example, we did an analysis of taxation systems in Ghana a few years back, looking specifically at traders and street vendors. And we found that poorer workers tend to pay more of their income. They were paying almost 50% of their income in taxes, revenue, taxes and tolls to local government and to national government. But there is this idea that workers in the informal economy are not taxed, but they are. So what we are saying is governments should focus less on taxing workers, especially poorer workers in the informal economy, and they should be focused more on taxing richer people and richer companies. And then we give some ideas about where governments could gather some of the money for financing. So we argue that there could be increases in sin taxes. So sin taxes are taxes on things like alcohol and cigarettes. Taxes on luxury goods that only the rich and the wealthy are able to buy. Wealth taxes, meaning that we institute a tax on the wealthiest 1% of society. We should also consider climate change funding and the extent to which climate change funding could be used to finance social protection. And we also need to make sure that corporate taxes are fair and proportionate, that big corporations like mining houses, big plantations, big mobile phone companies, that they are paying their fair share of taxes to government as well, before we think about what poorer workers in the informal economy need to pay. Where there are going to be increases in taxation, our platform says, there needs to be proper negotiation with organizations of workers in the informal economy, because this is another thing that happens, right? Government will decide to increase taxes, but there'll be no discussion or negotiation with workers in the informal economy. So we want there to be discussion along, nothing for us without us. That should apply to taxation issues as well. And we must make sure that those taxation interventions are well designed. So sometimes when governments are trying to raise money to fund social protection programs, one of the easiest taxes that they try and increase is value-added tax, or VAT. Now, this can be a real problem, because if you're paying, it's a consumption tax. It's the tax on things that we buy to live everyday life: bread, food, milk, things that we are eating, and really impact negatively on poorer workers in the informal economy, and particularly women as well. So if governments are going to be placing increases on value-added tax, we want to make sure that there are important exclusions. So we want to exclude basic goods and services, right? We want to try and exclude the basics, so that the price increases for basic goods and services are not impacted too badly. We've also seen governments start instituting digital taxes. So Ghana recently started an e-levy where they are taxing digital money transactions. So if you are transferring money on your mobile phone, that gets taxed by the government. That is potentially an important way to help finance protections, but we also need to be careful that it is designed properly, right? So that it protects maybe people who are transferring really small amounts, because they might be poorer people, and we don't want to place too much burden on poorer workers. It's fine perhaps if it's really large amounts of money that are being taxed. So that question of design in taxation is really important. And then, of course, there are contributory social protection schemes. So if any of you have done our social protection courses, you'll know that there are two types of social protection. There's non-contributory, which is cash grants and food support. And then there are contributory social protection schemes, which are insurance-based schemes. In order to get access to the benefits, you have to pay something in. Unfortunately, what we often see in Africa is that the contribution rate that is set for workers in the informal economy is often inappropriate. It's too high. Sometimes it's over 20% of income. And that might be affordable for some workers in the informal economy, but it's not affordable for all workers in the informal economy. So we have to make sure that the contributions are affordable. At the same time, we have to balance that with the quality of benefits we want, right? So there needs to be a bit of give and take about negotiating how much we pay in and what we get out. One way to solve this is for government to provide some kind of subsidy, for example. So if you contribute, $1 into a scheme, the government will contribute 50 cents for every $1. So Mauritius, for example, is a country in Africa which does that. The government provides a matching subsidy. That can also be for women who perhaps aren't working for a while because of their care responsibilities. Government can provide a subsidy. And we also need to make sure that the contributions are flexible, that workers can pay them when they have money and aren't going to be penalized if they don't pay them when they don't have money. So the contributions have to be suited to the context of workers in the informal economy, and we also really need to deal with this issue of making them affordable and ensuring that there is some co-payment in many cases, particularly again for poorer workers. We also argue that in many poorer countries, it might be that the government just doesn't have the money. Really, the government is going to struggle to finance adequate social protection programs for all workers in the informal economy. And so we also argue that there must be some kind of international solidarity between richer countries and poorer countries, which could help support the domestic finances. So there is an idea, a call for a global social protection fund, which would sit at global level and which would help fund social protection in the 10 poorest countries of the world. And that would be financed by development aid finance from richer countries. And it would also be financed by corporations, taxes on global corporations. So those are what our last 2 points say. Then we have our section on social dialogue, and of course, this is the big area where we say the StreetNet slogan of "Nothing for us without us" really comes in. Too often, as with taxation, workers in the informal economy are not included in dialogue processes leading up to policy reforms. And if they are consulted, the consultation is very quick and not very meaningful. And so we want to make sure that organizations of workers in the informal economy are represented in dialogue relating to the reform of social protection programs. And it must be at all stages of the process. It mustn't just be one consultation right at the beginning or a needs analysis right at the beginning. We need to go through from the beginning all the way through to planning and implementation and monitoring, right? So this is an important principle. The other thing about social protection schemes, especially the kind of contributory schemes where you pay in to the scheme, is people don't trust them. Nobody is going to want to pay into a social protection scheme if they see that it's badly managed, that the governance isn't transparent, that their interests are not represented. And so we argue that the governance of social protection schemes must be professional, accountable, and transparent. And that there must be easy and accessible mechanisms for communicating with the scheme to ensure that people's concerns are heard. And then again, we speak to the issue of design, and we've actually gone through quite a bit of this already. We want contributory social programs to be appropriately designed for the affordability needs of workers in the informal economy. They must be simple. The way that you access the scheme must be simple. It cannot take you 3 days to apply to join a scheme or to get a benefit. It must be easy for workers to access the scheme and get their benefits. We do believe that digital tools are useful in this. They can help workers. Sometimes social protection schemes these days, everything can be done on your mobile phone. And that can be really useful because it cuts down the time it takes to apply and get the benefit. The money can come straight to your mobile phone. But there are also problems, and I know StreetNet has recently done some research on this in Zambia, where sometimes the digital tools are not easy to use. People don't have access to internet. People don't have access to cell phones. So what are the options available to people who are going to struggle with those digital options? So while we understand the move towards digital is probably inevitable and has real benefits in terms of making social protection schemes more accessible, we also need to understand the difficulties and to make sure that there are alternative ways for people to access the schemes. We want to talk about the benefits as well. We want benefits that are appropriate to the needs of workers in the informal economy. So sometimes social protection is defined very strictly, and it's not always that the benefits that come out of a social protection scheme are really seen as useful by workers in the informal economy. So, sometimes workers in the informal economy might want educational bursaries for their children as part of a social protection scheme. But, in the strict definition of social protection, this isn't seen as social protection. But perhaps there are ways that we could combine those elements, those benefits, into schemes which contain more traditional benefits like pensions and unemployment and disability. And we also want to see benefits that speak to women workers' concerns, maternity benefits, childcare benefits, family benefits, because too often those are the last things that you see included in social protection schemes. And we'd also like to see social protection programs designed so that they strengthen organization amongst workers in the informal economy. So this can be achieved in multiple ways. So you might, for example, link social and solidarity economy schemes into national schemes. This was an idea behind the National Health Insurance Scheme in Ghana. The idea was that there would be a central fund that would reinsure and support local funds that were sort of owned and managed by local organizations. It didn't quite work out like that, but the idea is there. And so the ways in which social and solidarity organizations can connect in to national social protection schemes is something we need to talk about. And I know that so StreetNet affiliates in Nigeria and Zambia have been actively working to think about how this can be achieved. Implementation. So we don't get anywhere unless there is implementation, and so that is why we want to see this in the platform. We want to actually see clear action plans that are realistic. It's very tiring to hear that government is going to implement something over and over again, and it just seems impossible and it never gets anywhere. So what you want to be looking for is what are your plans for implementation and where is this written down? And we also would want to argue that these implementation plans, as with our social dialogue clauses, must be developed in a participatory manner with organizations of informal economy workers. There must be clear communication strategies. So that's another thing that often gets left out of social protection plans. There was apparently a wonderful maternity benefit available for workers, for informal economy workers in Zambia at some point. The benefit was incredibly generous, but nobody had communicated it. So nobody knew about the benefit. And so there's a really important role for communication and awareness. And again, that is where informal economy organizations can play a really important role in acting as the bridge between what the government is doing and their organizations. And we also want to see clear monitoring and evaluation strategies. Who's going to be monitoring the implementation of the scheme? What are they going to be looking to monitor? What are going to be the indicators of success? That is stuff that we would all want to input into. And then finally, in the platform, so those were the key parts of the social protection platform that were outlined. And then we also looked at the role of other actors beyond the state. So we acknowledge that the state has the ultimate responsibility for the provision of social protection and the facilitation of participatory processes. But we also wanted to name some of the other actors who have an important role to play. One of those was trade unions. So there were arguments. By the way, the ITUC Africa was present for the drafting of the initial platform. So they have inputted into this. But really, we saw a key role for the inclusion of workers in the informal economy, their democratic organizations into trade union structures. But also to provide full membership for these organizations, which I think was a controversial point. That trade unions have a key role to play in building the capacity of informal economy workers to engage in negotiation and advocacy for improved social protection. That they should support the direct inclusion of informal economy representatives in social dialogue. Particularly where they have organizations who are largely informal, who are affiliated as full members. We also felt that civil society organizations have a role to play in supporting the extension of social protection to workers in the informal economy. So civil society organizations can work to create a collaborative environment for alliances for social protection, because it's not just workers who want social protection, right? It's disabled people, it's older people, children need social protection. So the civil society organizations that work with these groups are often really strong allies in the building of social protection schemes. And civil society organizations often have a lot of expertise on advocacy, networking, research, building coalitions to support resource mobilization. And so we felt that this was information and knowledge that would be shared, that should be shared with organizations of informal economy workers. Also present in the drafting of the platform was the Africa Platform on Social Protection, which is an African network which brings together civil society organizations across Africa to fight for universal social protection. And then we also felt it was important to spell out the responsibilities of informal economy workers and your organization. So what is your responsibility? So one was to build for your own organizations a coherent strategy and agenda on social protection and to ensure that there is buy-in from your membership. So that includes awareness raising and education, even through the innovative use of media channels. Part of it is about just building really strong organizations, which promote values of good governance and transparency. Also striving to develop services for their members, including savings. Social and solidarity organizations can also build their own social protection schemes. So there are several examples in the StreetNet network of organizations who have built health mutuals, saving schemes, other kinds of schemes which really attract membership and also provide some forms of social protection. And organizations must also be prepared to become active members of existing alliances and platforms committed to promoting social protection at national, regional, and global levels. So this means participating in educational activities, learning to engage with government officials effectively, learning how to analyze budgets, make the financial case for extension of social protection. And I will leave it there. That is your platform on social protection. Congratulations to you all. I think it's a very, very, very good platform. And yeah, I look forward to discussing it more and to hopefully seeing where it goes into the future. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Laura, for giving us that presentation on the demands. Comrades, if you want to read more about the platform, a link has been shared in the chat. You can go through it and get to know more about the platform. We also encouraged to go through the AU protocol on social protection because some of these principles reference is made to the AU protocol. I see our president, Madam Lorraine, has joined us. And before we proceed to the next speakers, I'm going to welcome Madam Lorraine just to welcome us to this webinar. Thank you so much, Madam Lorraine.
I think she dropped. I cannot find her now.
Yes, maybe it's those power issues in Zimbabwe. So she'll be able to speak to us, I'm sure, before we end the webinar. So there are two very important issues that came out from Laura's presentation, that it's not only that we are demanding for the legal frameworks, but we want also financing to enable us, implement us these legal frameworks. Without much ado, I'm going to invite our next speaker, and this is going to be Comrade Benga. Comrade Benga is the General Secretary of the Federation of Informal Workers Organization of Nigeria, and he is also a council member of StreetNet International. Comrade Benga is going to give us an analysis of the context of the social protection and also share with us experiences and any case studies from Nigeria. Welcome, Comrade Benga.
Yeah, thank you very much, comrade. And good day, everyone. The campaign for social protection in Nigeria has actually been a central focus of what we do in FIWON since the organization was launched in 2010. So right from the onset, we were able to highlight about 3 or 4 key issues we felt were very important to guarantee minimum well-being of our members, of people working in the informal economy in Nigeria. Among them, we identified the need for incorporation of informal workers into the national pension system, such that informal economy workers in Nigeria will also be able to access some form of care and support at old age. We also identified the need for maternity care and support for working people in the informal economy because of the fact that we observe that so many women actually suffer a lot during childbirth. Nigeria actually has a very unenviable record of being one of the countries that has a record, that has one of the highest maternal mortality rates in the world. And a lot of that tragedy happened in the informal economy, where working women have no access to health care and will not seek health care because they can't afford it until it is too late. And then that has resulted into many untimely and unnecessary deaths of pregnant women going through childbirth. We also recognized the need for some form of care and support for our members who, for whatever reason, can no longer work. At present, such people end up on the street as beggars, or the burden of care and support for them fall entirely on their families, and which, of course, is not a sustainable form of support system for such people. So these were some of the very limited areas that we focus our campaigns on to ensure that workers in the informal economy in Nigeria actually have access to minimal social protection in Nigeria. In 2014-2015, the federal government responded to those campaigns, which actually took us to the National Assembly by establishing what they call the micro pension plan for working people in the informal economy. The micro pension plan provides for workers in the informal sector in Nigeria to also contribute to the pension fund at their own pace. It's supposed to be very flexible. They could do their contribution on daily, weekly, or monthly basis. But unfortunately, just like we want in 2015, because the special body actually set up to implement that program under the National Pension Commission, consulted with us. They met us in our office in Lagos, and we told them then that that program was welcome, but was not likely going to work because it relied solely on the assumption that informal workers are able and are willing to contribute. We also felt that such contribution will be unsustainable in the long term, because pension savings are supposed to be long-term savings. And we are in an economy with extremely volatile inflationary pressures. We feel that the rate of inflation alone will whittle away the benefits that will accrue to those who subscribe to such a scheme. And of course, there's also a lot of skepticism on the part of our members about how such a scheme will work, because experience has shown that such public schemes hardly work in Nigeria. So we express our fears and vigorously confessed that government actually should provide matching grants for informal workers' contribution into the pension fund. And this has been one of the central focus of our engagement with government since 2015. In 2018, the program was officially launched by the president. We were invited to the official launch, and we reiterated again our concerns and made our demand that it was necessary for government to provide matching grants for our contribution. Interestingly, last year, they did a review of that program, and they discovered that so many years after the program had been launched, only about 70,000 people out of estimated 65 million informal workers that needed that service, only about 70,000 actually subscribed into that scheme. Interestingly, last week, I was opportune to meet with the new officials of the pension fund. They have just been appointed by the new president. We met in a program at the United Nations House. And again, we reiterate our concerns. And interestingly, the new leadership immediately agreed, which was unusual. Before, they would be defensive and they would try to argue why what we were demanding was impossible. But this time, they readily admitted that yes, their own experience has shown that informal workers must be incentivized to effectively participate in contributing to the pension fund. And again, and it became a major issue for discussion in that forum. Last week, I met with the new management of the pension fund, and they also expressed their readiness to work around the issue of matching grants by government. So that remains a work in progress. Then the demand around accessible healthcare service, especially for pregnant women, also remains a work in progress. The traditional response of government agency has been to say, oh, government has started a new national insurance scheme, NHIS, and that our members who are women should just subscribe to health insurance, and that once that happens, they will be taken care of. But again, experience has shown that because of the unstable incomes in the informal economy, because of the precarity, the low productivity, is actually not very convenient. It's not quite easy for a lot of informal workers to be part of the health insurance program. There's also a lot of low awareness about how it actually works. But our demand has been that, well, if those of us who are still economically active are compelled to do health insurance, government must take responsibility for those who are already retired, because working people in the formal economy also grow old. So we always demanded that people above 70 at least must enjoy universal health coverage. We can't expect people at that age to be doing health insurance. Again, this has been one issue that we have had to reiterate over and over. And there seems to be a disposition to pay a bit more attention to that demand. Then the issue around disability care and support. Interestingly, they also have a new management. We also have a new management in the national body saddled with that responsibility, the National Social Insurance Trust Fund, NSITF. And interestingly, they were also in the meeting last week, and they later invited me to their office to meet with the head of the informal sector desk. And we met with her, my national president, who was also in that trip. We met with her, and she explained that yes, there are provisions to take care of workers in the informal economy. The new law, the revised law on Employee Compensation Act, ECA, actually covers the informal sector now, unlike before. And that she wanted to work with us. There are provisions to support rehabilitation of workers who suffer accidents, and to also guarantee some minimum survivor's benefits in case of loss of lives of such workers, so that their family members will be assured of education, and so on and so forth. Again, they are willing to work with us, first of all, at the level of sensitization, so that our members will also get to know about this program, and also how we could key into it more effectively and make it work for our members. So this has been some of very practical experiences in terms of our advocacy for minimal social protection coverage of our members in Nigeria. But while advocating, we also feel that we should be able to do something, however minimal, to ensure that our members also enjoy some level of coverage. Through our cooperative society, particularly in a few states where the cooperative society is now very effective, we make sure that all our members who are members of the cooperative society subscribe to health insurance. This has helped to enlighten, sensitize our members to the importance of health insurance. We have so many testimonies of our members whose life have been saved through health insurance. I've enjoyed. Hello?
Sorry
Hello?
about comrade. Just go on.
Thank you. Yeah, so we have that ongoing. The challenge at that level really is to see how we can expand on that service, which I'm getting to appreciate how we can increase the coverage to many states, so that more members can key into the cooperative society and can also be able through that access in a more seamless and sustainable manner health insurance. The cooperative society has also been has also been instrumental to our ability to extend so many other services to our members. In our engagement with the new leadership of the National Pension Commission last week, we also highlighted the issue around mode of contribution. We recognize that it's not even enough for informal workers to embrace the micro pension plan. It's even more important to have a mode of contribution that will be seamless and sustainable. The present assumption is that informal workers on their own will just be transferring money to the pension fund. But of course, we have always insisted that that's not going to work. We believe that we can also use the instrumentality of the cooperative society as one form of social solidarity economy to ensure that members of the, at least those ones in the cooperative society, are able to seamlessly contribute to the pension fund. But that will be under the condition that there will be some form of commitment by government to provide matching grants, because we are convinced that just like we said earlier, contributing right now without any form of support from government is really very unsustainable. We fear that most of the money will be lost to inflation anyway. So the cooperative society has been a veritable tool, a means of actually leveraging on some of the social protection services to make them accessible to our members. But a lot of work needs to be done at the level of upscaling our operations at that level. We need a lot more field officers to work in the communities and workspaces where our members are active, so that the contributions can be much more consistent. We also need technical support. We have tried to digitalize the operations of our cooperative society, but we have discovered that the cost, what they charge us, is so outrageous. There's no way we can dip hands into people's savings. So it has not the lack of funding at that level has not allowed us to also expand the possibilities of digitalizing our operation at that level to accommodate more scaled up services. Moving forward, those are areas we are looking at to see how we respond to actually put more boots on the ground and also expand our technical capacities. So I think I will stop at that level for now. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Comrade Benga, for sharing those experiences from Nigeria. Erin, if you could mute Karim.
Yeah,
Comrade,
I'm trying.
the conference where this platform of demands were developed, we were hosted by FIWON Nigeria, and we are happy to see the progress made so far, the advocacy work being done, and we are hoping to engage more on how we can use this platform of demands to continue doing our advocacy work. I'm now going to invite our next speaker, who is Comrade Anthony Kwache. Anthony is the president of the Kenya National Alliance of Street Vendors and Informal Traders, Kenya, and he's also an international council member of StreetNet International. Welcome, Comrade Anthony.
Thank you so much, Jim. And I'm traveling on my way to Nairobi. I'm entering Nairobi from my home city of Kisumu. So I'll be short as possible and be clear to the point. One, I'll start by saying that in Kenya, I can say authoritatively that the issue of inclusivity in relation to acquisition of social protection services is another level.
Comrade Anthony?
How do we do it?
Comrade Anthony, we cannot hear you. You're not clear. I'm sure it's because of the mic. If maybe, I don't know how. Can you try? Can you speak?
What we can do, let me be the last speaker. Let me be the last speaker. I'm almost alighting, please.
Okay, thank you.
Speaker, almost alighted.
All right.
Yes.
Okay, so Comrade Anthony will be the last speaker. So now we invite Comrade Komi from Fena Trust Togo. Komi also is our regional focal point or coordinator for the West and Central Africa region. Bienvenue, Komi. Welcome, Komi.
Allumer. Ouais, bonjour, je vais allumer mon,
Yes, hello, hello. I hope you are
je
hearing
vais
me.
allumer mon micro d'abord. Bonjour les
Let
amis,
me adjust my mic.
j'espère que tout le monde se porte
Hello,
bien.
everybody. I
Et
hope you
effectivement,
are
bon,
hearing
nous avons
me.
été invités
So,
ce jour pour
we
pouvoir
have
présenter
been invited to
le document
deliver
de Fena
my
Transit
presentation,
sur
the experience of
la
Final
protection
Transit
sociale.
in
Et
terms of
si
financial
je peux
protection.
arriver à partager l'écran
And
pour
if
que
I
nous
can share my
puissions
screen,
voir ce que
we
Fena
can
Transit
see what
fait
is
au
done
niveau de la
by
protection sociale
Transit at the level
des acteurs de l'économie informelle.
in the level of,
Premièrement, je vais dire que
in the field of
l'association, comme vous le
financial
savez, ça regroupe
protection,
une
social
vingtaine
protection, sorry.
d'organisations
So Final
et
Transit is
de l'économie
accounting for
informelle.
20 organizations of informal economy workers, which are our affiliates.
Oui. Donc, bon, voilà, partager la
So I
présentation
would
de la
like to
Transit sur la
share
protection sociale au webinaire de
the
Net
presentation
international
of
ce 27 novembre 2024. Le thème, c'est la protection sociale.
presentation of Final
Quel
Transit and
défi
social
pour les
protection.
acteurs de l'économie informelle?
So addressing the challenges faced by informal economy actors.
Bon,
So
bon,
let me,
selon le plan de
you can
la
see the presentation
conception
outline
de cette communication, nous
of
avons
my message.
l'introduction. Nous allons
I've
définir la
included
protection
several
sociale
points. First,
et le
introduction.
rôle et valeurs de
Second,
la
definition of
protection
social
sociale.
protection.
Et
Third
le
one is the
caractère
role and values of social
obligatoire
protection.
de la protection
Fourth, the
sociale, le rôle
compulsory
de l'État
nature
dans
of
la
social
promotion de la
protection.
protection
And
sociale et
fifth,
enfin
the
nous
role
allons
of the state
conclure.
in promoting social protection. And
Bon, en ce
finally,
qui
conclusion.
concerne l'introduction,
Regarding
la
the
protection
introductory
sociale
part, I
permet
would
la
like to tell you that
création
social protection
des
creates better
meilleures
conditions
conditions qui aident les travailleurs et
to
leurs
help
familles,
workers and their families,
particulièrement les
particularly
ménages pauvres et
poor
vulnérables,
and
à
vulnerable
affronter les
households,
crises et les chocs.
cope
Elle
with
permet aux
crisis and
populations
shocks.
de trouver un
It
emploi,
allows
gagner
individuals to locate
en
job opportunities,
productivité et investir dans la santé et
enhance
l'éducation
productivity,
de
dedicate
leur
resources to their health, and
la productivité et investir dans la santé de l'éducation, de
health and education.
je vais déplacer un peu ça là pour voir si ça peut.
I cannot see
Donc,
properly my slide.
la santé et
So,
l'éducation
health and
et
education
protéger ceux qui
and support
vieillissent dans
the
la société.
aging
La
population
protection sociale
within
contribue
society.
énormément
Social
à l'instauration
protection plays a
d'un véritable
crucial
climat de
role
paix
in
sociale
creating
pour
a
un
genuine
développement
environment
économique,
of social
social
harmony
durable.
necessary for sustainable economic and social development.
Donc, en définition, je vais dire que la protection sociale
Regarding the
est
definition of social
un
protection,
ensemble de
I put that
mécanismes de
social protection
prévoyance
comprises a
collective
series of
permettant aux
collective
individus
welfare
de faire
systems
face aux
designed
conséquences
to help
financières et
individuals
surtout de
manage
prévenir et de
financial
protéger
impacts and,
les
most
populations contre les
importantly,
risques
to
sociaux
safeguard
en période de
communities
crise.
against social
Je
risks
donne
during
l'exemple,
crisis.
le cas de la
As an
crise
example, I
sanitaire
would like to tell you
ou
that
les
it
guerres
would
dans
be
les régions
the health
subsahariennes
crisis
d'Afrique de l'Ouest,
there was
etc.,
in the
ou
sub-Saharan
celle entre
region
la
in
Russie
West
et
Africa,
l'Ukraine.
etc., or the war between Russia and Ukraine.
Le rôle et les valeurs de la
The role
protection
and
sociale.
values
La
of social
protection
protection.
sociale joue un rôle capital
The social
et
protection is
prépondérant
essential for
dans la
enhancing the
promotion du
nation's
tissu
economic,
économique,
social,
social, politique et
political,
culturel
and
du pays à
cultural
travers la
aspects
mise en œuvre
by
d'un
implementing
nombre de valeurs.
various values.
Les principes
The main
valeurs de la protection sociale
values
sont
of social
la
protection
solidarité,
include
la
solidarity,
sécurité
security,
et
and
l'universalité,
universality
universalité et
or
l'égalité. Donc, la
equity.
protection sociale
So
ne peut
social
être
protection
limitée au simple
extends
acte
beyond
de
merely
couverture de santé
providing universal
universelle,
health
mais plutôt un
coverage.
ensemble de systèmes
It
collectifs visant
encompasses
à
a
prévenir
range of
les
collective
individus
systems
et les
aimed at
familles des
safeguarding
situations de
individuals and
vulnérabilité
families from
liées à l'activité
vulnerabilities related
professionnelle,
to work, such
chômage,
as unemployment,
accident,
workplace
accident
accidents,
du travail, maladie ou
occupational
invalidité
diseases
professionnelle,
and disabilities,
ou
as well
aux
as life
aléas de la
challenges
vie, à
like
la vieillesse, le veuvage, le
aging,
logement, la maternité, tout ça là
widowhood,
qui fait, ça
housing
fait partie de la
issues, and
protection sociale.
maternity.
Donc, les
This is
caractères
this
obligatoires
was a
de la protection
definition of
sociale
social protection.
au
The
regard
compulsory
de la définition de la
nature of
protection
social
sociale
protection.
et de son rôle
Given the
dans le
definition
développement
of social protection
économique et
and
pour
its
le
function
maintien
in
d'un climat
promoting
de paix
economic growth
sociale
by
et des relations d'équilibre
sustaining
entre
social
tous les
equilibrium
membres de la
and creating
société et
harmonious community
particulièrement
for all
pour les
members,
couches vulnérables,
particularly
la
for
protection
vulnerable
sociale doit être
groups.
rendue
It is
obligatoire
crucial
au
that
niveau
social
national,
protection
régional et mondial
becomes
afin de protéger
compulsory
les
at national,
populations
regional,
contre
and
les
global
risques
levels to
sociaux.
safeguard
Par conséquent, elle doit
individuals from
être
social risk.
intégrée
Therefore,
dans le
it
programme de
should be
politique
incorporated
des
into
gouvernements.
the policy frameworks of decision makers.
C'est ça, cela le rôle de l'État dans la promotion de
This
la
is the
protection
role
sociale.
of the state
L'État a
in
l'obligation de jouer un
promoting
rôle
social
régalien
protection.
dans la
The
promotion de
government
la
has a
protection
responsibility
sociale
to
pour
engage
tous
actively in
par
the promotion
l'élaboration,
of universal
l'application
social
des
protection
instruments
by
juridiques
creating and
au niveau
enforcing
national et
legal
international.
regulations at both the national
L'État
and
doit définir
international
et mettre
levels.
en œuvre
It
des
is
programmes
essential for the
pour
state
rendre obligatoire
to
la protection
outline and
sociale à
carry
toutes
out
les populations à
initiatives
travers
that
un
make
système de
social protection compulsory
redistribution
for
de
the
la richesse
entire
et de
population,
contribution
facilitating
des citoyens
this
par des taxes
through systems of
et
wealth
impôts
redistribution
adaptés.
and
L'État doit
contributions from
élaborer
citizens
un budget
via
clair
appropriate
pour
taxes
soutenir
and duties.
les
A
programmes de
transparent budget
protection
must be established
sociale.
by the state in order to
Donc,
support
en
social
conclusion,
protection
je dirais
schemes.
que la protection sociale
To
est un
conclude, I would
ensemble
like to tell you that
de
social protection
mécanismes qui
encompasses
jouent
a
un
range
rôle
of
important
mechanisms
dans le
that
développement économique,
significantly
politique,
impact the
social et
economic,
culturel des
political,
individus
social,
et des États.
and
Elle
cultural
contribue
advancement of both
énormément
individuals and
à la
nations. It
croissance
is a
économique des
vital
pays,
contributor to national
joue un
economic
rôle
growth, providing
d'équilibre
balance
et de maintien de
and
climat de paix
ensuring
sociale
social
pour le
harmony,
développement des
which
activités
are
économiques
essential
et
for the
professionnelles
progress of
des
economic and
sociétés
professional
des
endeavors in
sociétés. Pour cette
society.
raison, il est
Therefore,
nécessaire de mettre en
establishing a
place
framework
un cadre
for
de
social
dialogue
dialogue
social
involving the
regroupant
state,
l'État, les employeurs, les organisations
employers,
syndicales,
trade
y
unions,
compris ceux de l'économie
including those
informelle,
representing
les
the informal
organisations de la
economy,
société civile
civil
et les
society
communautés
organizations, and
sociales
local
pour la
communities
mise
is
en œuvre
critical
d'un
for
système de
developing a
protection
social
sociale.
protection system.
Donc, bon, à cela,
So, at this
je
point, I
dis
would
merci pour votre
like to
aimable
thank
attention.
you for your kind attention.
Allô?
Sorry.
Oui, allô? Est-ce que vous m'entendez?
Oui, oui,
Can you
pardon.
hear me?
Yeah,
Oui.
yeah,
Donc,
yes, correct.
ok. D'accord, bon, je viens à peu près de conclure ce qui est sur la protection
So
sociale.
I
Et
just
je veux dire que, bon, tout ça,
included
là, ça a été
social protection, and I'd like to tell you that
ce
it
que
was done
Fenatracite a eu à
by
faire
Transit
à son niveau, puisque, bon,
at
nous avons
its
à
level,
notre niveau faire un lobbying pour
and
la mise en place
we did the lobbying
d'un guichet unique des acteurs de l'économie
to
informelle.
introduce
Il y avait
the
eu une réunion
unique desk
là-dessus en
for the
2020
or single
et
desk
sur
for the
la
informal economy
lecture
workers,
sur
and
la protection sociale, puisque depuis 2011 déjà, le Togo a déjà mis en place une structure qui pourrait
this
quand
work
même
has
arriver
been
à
initiated in
faciliter
2011, and
la protection sociale des acteurs de l'économie informelle.
our main
En
objective was
2020,
to
bon, vu
improve
ce qui est
the
en train de
life
se passer,
of
bon,
our
on a eu à faire la révision
informal economy workers,
au niveau
and
de
in
Fenatracite pour que, bon, on
2012
arrive à mettre en place
we have made
la
the
structure
revision of the
d'un guichet
structure of these
qui sera mise en place pour les
single
acteurs de l'économie
desks
informelle pour qu'ils puissent arriver à s'inscrire Donc,
their
bon, là,
functioning,
dernièrement,
modify their
il y a
functioning, and
le FAMU qui est mis
recently
en place par l'État. Et pour que bon, les
the
acteurs de
state
l'économie informelle
introduced
doivent avoir une
the
protection sociale
desks
universelle
allowing
et que
to, or
tout ce qui fait
guaranteeing
partie des ratifications
to the
des
informal economy
conventions,
workers the social protection, access
des
to the social
conventions
protection schemes,
de
and
l'OIT,
on the
tout ce
basis
qui est
of
euh,
the
de
ILO
faire
convention
protéger les acteurs de l'économie informelle.
aimed
Bon,
at
le Togo en a
protection of the
ratifié et que,
informal
bon, jusqu'au
economy
jour d'aujourd'hui,
workers, and our
nous
state has
continuons toujours à
ratified.
lutter, nous continuons toujours les
And until
plaidoyer
now,
pour
we are
que
continuing
la
our
protection sociale
struggle,
soit
and
une totalité pour les acteurs de l'économie informelle. Donc
in order
voilà
to
à peu près ce
enable
que je
all
peux dire
economy workers to
concernant
benefit
la
from the
finance
social
passive sur le
protection scheme.
développement
So these
et la mise en
was the
œuvre
final
de la
transit
protection sociale
activities done
au Togo. Je vous remercie.
to promote the social protection schemes in Togo. Thank you.
Merci beaucoup, camarade Komi. Thank you so much for sharing the lobbying and advocacy work that FINA Trust has been doing, and also highlighting the importance of the role of government and also the importance of the inclusion of informal economy workers representatives in any policy formulation. And now we're going back to Comrade Anthony. I don't know if Comrade Anthony, you're okay to speak now?
Thank you. I love to speak. We are still in the traffic jam.
Okay.
And I will go straight to our demands as a
Comrade Anthony, we can't hear you at all.
You are still not hearing me.
Now we can hear you. When you've been talking, we couldn't hear.
Can you hear me now?
Yes. Go ahead. Thank you.
So I said we have our specific demands are: one, we need a social protection that is accessible, affordable, functional, effective, responsive to our members. And then in Kenya, to be specific, we have following types or sectors of social protection. Talk about health, education, persons living with children, health. And the main providers of payable social protection services are the National Social Security Fund, recently launched Social Health Insurance Fund. Social
You're breaking.
Hello?
Yes. Now you're
Yes.
breaking a lot.
Yes, because I'm still traveling, but I wish you could get the points clear, however much I'm in that situation. So in the National Social Security Fund, what is meant for our sector, we have a service called Haba na Haba. Haba na Haba is where our members are allowed to pay 25 shillings per day, and then they are allowed to withdraw their savings after 50% of their savings. So I can say in the social security services, members are included through their group networks and chapters. They collect their weekly savings. Then with the new development of social insurance funds, what is still developed.
Can we ask Anthony to switch off his camera? It will be the better connectivity.
Then, if you look at the social health insurance fund, it is a new concept, and advocacy is going on, and we're still engaging the departments. And the most important thing, if you look universally across the board, both formal and informal, if you look at the formal, everybody is being charged 5% on their total income. So it is an equal amount of percentage of deductions from the formal workers' income. And those in the informal are expected to pay 550 shillings per month. And the same model of payment is what we're going to do. And when it comes to education, what is it that we get from our government? Government at the constituency level and at the ward level, our members cannot manage to pay for bursaries and even scholarships. Then on PWDs, there's a massive registration across the country, advising our members to register. Then they have specific, they have a location government people. If you look at the children below 8 years old, treated free of charge government hospitals. And elderly are also given consideration. So if you look at the role of the government provide the services and make sure that members get access to services in hospitals, and also have said of national social security. At the right time, the members get their money after the 5 years of their saving. So at our own initiative, we also have the conventional social protection, whereby we in the groups where people do their savings and those that have graduated to circles, there's a way that we manage, and our members who are sick, we contribute something to them so that they can buy medicine and also buy food while they're still at home. But we also support those who cannot. We also subsidize by contributing as part of our savings, whatever component of fees. So if you look at what we are trying to do, I can say in terms of the government services, we have moved ahead in terms of social security, but we are still expecting more engagement so that as many as possible of our members become part and parcel of this. And also in terms of the new system of social health insurance fund, we as part of my journey, why I'm here, I need to engage the top leadership of the new setup so that we do a lot of outreaches so that our members can really register and benefit out of the new system. But the benefits of the new system are immense as compared to the first one. So I can say there's still a lot of work to do, and we have to do a lot of work for the betterment of our members, and we need to engage both the national and the regional governments to improve the quality of the services that we get in terms of social protection. I submit, and I thank you so much for listening to me.
Thank you so much, Comrade Anthony, even for your struggle to make sure that you present what is happening in Kenya as you are traveling. I see we're really running out of time. I'm now going to hand over to my colleague, Irene, to take us through the Q&A session and also play for us a message from our President Lorraine, who couldn't join us because of connectivity issues. Over to you, Irene.
Thanks, Jane, and thank you everybody for your participation and presentation. So first of all, I'm gonna play to you, I hope you can hear it, the message that the President Lorraine shared with me. She's very apologetic she could not join, well, she sent this message, which I hope you can all hear from my computer. So let me know if you hear this.
My apologies for the hiccup. I was struggling with connectivity issues. I would like to share just a little insight into our platform of demands. As workers in the informal economy, we are plagued with a lot of issues, a lot of challenges, but that does not mean that we are content with being stagnant amongst those challenges. We would like to push ourselves to be better workers, and we are advocating for decent work in the informal economy. I believe this is a form of transformation which can lead to meaningful formalization, a formalization that changes lives, and a human rights-centered formalization, a workers' rights-centered formalization. We cannot talk about decent work and exclude social protection. social protection is a huge element of ensuring that we move from vulnerability of our livelihoods. And having said that, when we look at our platform demands, it addresses mainly 5 aspects: the legal framework, the frameworks, the financing of social protection, the governance of social protection schemes, the design of social protection schemes, and the implementation of social protection schemes. These are the main 5 demands that we are looking at concerning social protection. The most important thing that we should always bear in mind is that as organizations of informal economy workers, we have the responsibility of building a coherent strategy and agenda on social protection. And we should also ensure that members do not only buy into the strategy, but they have a relationship with and ownership of the strategy and social protection agenda that we are set to build, even as we work to convince and also to bring on board the different stakeholders, amongst whom are trade unions, the government, and other civil society organizations. Having said that, I will rest here and wish us all a very fruitful webinar and also good and progressive actions as we continue to work on advocating for extension of social protection to workers in the informal economy. Thank you very much.
Okay, this was the message from our President Lorraine, and I think she touches a lot of interesting points that can help us move the discussion forward. So how to take ownership of this platform, how to engage with the platform at the regional level and at the national level. So I would like to open the floor for any comment, questions, both to the speakers or to the plenary of the other comrades. Please raise your hands or type in the chat so we don't overlap while we talk. Anybody? Also, you can also share some of your experiences in your own countries. So even if you don't have a specific question for the speakers, you can talk about social protection in your country. So I see Comrade Enoch from Ghana. Comrade Enoch, you can unmute and speak.
Yeah, good afternoon. Hello? Hello, good afternoon.
Yeah.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. You can hear you. Please go ahead. You can hear you.
Yeah,
Good afternoon. Go on, please.
Thank you very much. And I just want to share Ghana's experience on the social protections. Ghana, we advocated for the laws to be amended or to be reviewed so that it will include the informal workers to get access to social protection, especially their pension. And in 2008, there was an Act 766, which established the legal framework for a national pension schemes and the national social security. So we were allowed to contribute to our pensions for our old age. So UNUA had registered a pension scheme, which is called UNUA Pension Scheme, which is managed by People's Pension Scheme, People Pension Trust, that is a PPT, which is very, very flexible. It has a 2 component that we have a savings accounts, which allows withdrawal after 6 months contribution. And then a pension aspect of it, that one, until you get a retirement age, you are not allowed to touch that fund. And the retirement age for this one is 70 years, because in the formal sector, There are many people who get old, 45, 50, and they can still work. Contributions is through our Momo accounts. First, we start with the contribution through the agents collections, but we stop it because there was a challenges. So now we contribute through the Momo accounts, and then the withdrawal too is done through Momo account. Everywhere you find yourself as a contributor in the country, you can just use your Momo accounts and withdraw money from it. And the contributions are due to everyone ability, and how you can pay is allowed. Any money that you can pay is allowed. And when you pay any amount, it is divided into two. As I've said, the savings part is 50%, and then the pension part is 50%. So again, in Ghana, we have a national health insurance. National health insurance covered everyone, even from the childhood to the adult, which also have a component of maternity health care in it. And it is yearly renewable with 30 cedis for the adult and free. It is free for the children from their birth to 18 years. Also, there is also a school feeding program in Ghana, which allowed parents to send their children to school without even thinking. They will feed them, they will give them money so that if you don't have money to give to your child, the child is not going to go to school. But here we have the program which allows everybody from the crèche to SHS, that's senior high school level. And it also increases the enrollment in the school. Also, the framework also allows workers in the informal economy to form cooperatives at their workplaces. So we have a lot of social interventions in Ghana, which by the support or the effort of Informal Workers Union here, which is the affiliate of Trade Union Congress, TUC, had advocated for. And then the challenge we are having now is we want the government to subsidize the pension scheme for us, the pension scheme for us. So if I contribute 50 cedis, at least government should pay for at least 1, 2, 3 cedis or 5 cedis to add to, so that it will encourage the informal workers associations or the workers to subscribe to, because it's a voluntary. By voluntary, if you don't bring something that will encourage the people to contribute, you bring it, but still people will not participate. Even the recent visit of our regional coordinator or organizer, Sister Evelyn and Anne, to Ghana, we send them to the manager's office, where that the PPT office. Even before we finish the meeting, we have registered them just like that. It's very flexible and it's not difficult to register for it. So that's what I want to share with the other members. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Comrade Enoch, for sharing the experience of Ghana. I can see that there is Willie with his hand up, and then I see that also Bernadette wanted to speak from the chat. So I'm gonna give the floor to Willie first, and then Bernadette, please raise your hand or type the question in the chat, and I will read it out loud. Willie, please.
Merci, camarade.
Thank you, dear comrades. It was a very interesting. I heard different presentations. I learned a lot, dear comrades. I would like to take this opportunity and to tell you that in Benin, we have launched the system of I think it was since the new regime, I mean political regime, installed in our country, and this system allowed to informal economy workers to subsidize or contribute. And this is a case of a new system that we have introduced in our country. And we have some experience in our particular regions, especially the experience regarding the poorest people. I think since 2002, we advocated a lot, and the government promised us that since 2025, the health insurance and retirement insurance will be introduced, and we hope that thanks of our advocacy work, the new system will be launched, allowing to the informal economy workers to benefit from. So we have a lot of things to do further. However, this is nevertheless, this is our small result we achieved.
Thank you, Comrade Willie. Bernadette, do you want to say something? I can see you switch on the camera. So if you want to intervene, that's your moment. No. Okay, maybe he cannot hear me, or he doesn't have the network. I see Robert raised his hand, and then I have Comrade Mwanda. Robert, can you introduce yourself also? Your organization and your country, please. You are still muted. No.
Yes, this is Waswa Bashir Tsebuzi, alongside my brother Robert Juko. I am the Deputy Organizing Secretary, Uganda Markets and Allied Employees Union. I first of all want to thank the first presenters and even those ones who have followed. I want to thank you for the good presentation. Here in Uganda, the informal workers sector has the biggest number of workers. We are trying our best as Uganda Markets and Allied Employees Union to organize the informal sector in Uganda after registering the National Informal Workers Social Protection Scheme with the Uganda registration. Am I clear? Uganda Retirement Benefits Regulatory Authority. We have registered that scheme to enable the informal sector at least cut out their businesses well. Like our comrade from Kenya was Anthony, what he has talked about, we are also intending to help our informal workers through saving. They have started saving through MomoPay. As the previous speaker said, we are also using MomoPay and other means. We found out that so many disasters, like just recently in a few weeks, after the biggest market almost in East Africa, mostly known as Owino, St. Mark Dembe, being faced with a very big floods, and vendors have lost a lot of their property, a lot of their goods. Much as the government is trying to intervene, but the process used is not really clear because it is not covering whoever lost his goods. The first presenter has talked about inclusion of leaders in the informal, from the informal workers associations and unions. We are not included at all, which is limiting our vendors and workers in the informal economy, especially during disasters like fire breakouts. A lot of property of our vendors in different markets all over Uganda, they have lost so much property. But because we are not included as leaders, especially by government, during the compensation processes, they end up being left behind. What do we advocate for? As we are multiplying our efforts as leaders in the informal economy, especially as we have said, as I've talked about the scheme that we have introduced for the informal workers, we need to keep on advocating. We need to raise our advocacy to the governments, especially in Africa, not specifically Uganda, but in Africa and some countries, to at least to include leaders from the informal economy associations and unions in order to raise the voices of the informal workers. We had a meeting just of recent as the Uganda markets after the initiation of this scheme. We had a meeting with some of the unions. We have people from the teachers union, private teachers union. Some of them consider themselves to be formal, but the general secretary reported to us that we should also consider such people during our settings in the informal economy. So you see the challenges that we find as leaders from the informal sector. Even those in the informal workers, they end up into the formal economy. So we have a very wide sector as an informal economy. But in Uganda, we have tried our best. We are trying to move on with the National Informal Workers Social Protection Scheme, but we still need so much support, especially from StreetNet as your affiliates. We had some challenges, but I believe they were addressed through the StreetNet. We addressed them to you as Uganda markets, but what we can advocate for currently is the support, because now in the initiation of this scheme, we don't have the government support. We are supporting this scheme as individuals from Uganda markets. It is a voluntary scheme. We support this scheme as individuals. And remember, our businesses, most of our businesses in the informal economy, they are not secured. They don't have enough security. Many are asking, where do you get money to support such a scheme? We have the National Social Security Fund. Someone in the first presentation talked about that they don't trust these schemes. But why do you think in the informal sector may not trust the fellow informal workers who have started the scheme? For us, we have the vigor, we have the muscle of running the scheme, the National Informal Workers Social Protection Scheme, because they are going to trust us. We are their fellow workers in the informal sector.
Comrade, sorry. You've been speaking for a few minutes, so I will need to give the floor to somebody else because we still have 15 minutes of webinar and there are other people who also would like to speak. So
okay,
I want to conclude in like 2 words and then I will pass the floor. Thank you.
We are so grateful as Uganda Markets and Trade Employees Union to also join this webinar meeting, and we shall keep on forwarding our call. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Comrade Robert. So
right.
As for now, I would like to pass the word to Comrade Bernadette, who wanted to speak, but I don't see him anymore. So Bernadette, are you there? Can you hear us, even if we cannot see you?
Yes.
Yes, good. Go ahead, please. Floor is yours. If you can be in like 3-4 minutes, that would be great.
Am I still on the floor? Yes, or another person? All right, thank you.
Comrade Bernadette?
C'est à vous de parler, camarade Bernadette. Vous avez la parole.
Il ne peut pas... you cannot hear?
Irène, c'est pas Bernadette, c'est quelqu'un qui est sur...
It's not Bernadette, it's somebody who is using her name.
I cannot see her, so I don't know who.
It was dropped.
Okay.
The connection dropped.
Let's move on. Comrade Mwanda.
S'il vous plaît, il faut passer la parole à Mwanda.
Yes. Comrade Mwanda.
Thank you very much, comrade, for giving me this opportunity. My question here is, actually we have, people have talked a lot, but I only wanted to say a few things. What I wanted to hear on this forum is whether my colleagues from other countries, they have got a law which stipulates something on a social protection or not. Because I believe that this forum is not for us to complain, but to come up with real issues, because we have to make decisions. We wanted to know if other guides from this forum in their countries, they have got that social protection so that we can borrow what they do and we can also learn from them. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you, Comrade Mwanda. So I'm just reading the chat and I'm seeing that Alice, from our comrade from Burundi, has asked if anybody wants to share the strategy utilized to advance the system of social protection, especially for what concerns the financing. And our previous speaker, Laura, has replied that that WIGO is about to put in online the training about financing on social protection. So this is also something that you can look out for. So if you're interested in systems to finance social protection, there is a new training coming up in online WIGO space. We can take, I think, another couple of interventions or questions very briefly before passing the word to Oksana for the final remarks. Is there anybody that would like to quickly ask something or intervene? Remember that we can also discuss about how to engage with the platform and how to take ownership of these demands that we have collectively created during this long process that was this discussion about social protection in the region. also if somebody has any other input to reply to Alice, who was asked about financing strategies and advocacy strategies. Remember that you can also type in the chat or you can exchange on the platforms. So these channels are always open. If nobody is willing to speak at the moment and nobody has any questions, I remind you that all the material will be shared in all the languages. So we will have the recording of the webinar in English and French. We will have the slides in English and French. So that will be shared in the next few days. I think I can pass the word to Oksana for the final 5 to 10 minutes for the closing remarks. And then thank you very much, everybody. Thank you for your engagement and thank you for your inputs. Oksana.
Thank you very much, Irene, and thanks to everyone whom we could chance to hear today. I'm very happy to be here again at such platform where we discuss very crucial issue, very crucial, relevant topic for all of us. It's social protection and its extension, mainly to all workers, including informal economy workers. And I'm very happy that we continue this work. It builds our consistency in the way that we started to develop this platform of demands, which is also based on legal document, which is African Union Protocol. And we make a very good use of it, of course, with our great supporter, Laura Alfers. Kudos to Laura, who is really making a lot of efforts to promote this, to help us, and we very appreciate it. Thanks a lot, dear Laura, to you personally and to all your social protection department of Vigo. So we could hear how important it is to have legal frameworks for social protection, how it is important to promote, to advocate, including not to forget those very crucial points and demands on financing, because this is really very tricky and very sensitive. And when we approach government, the first response is, who is going to finance and how do you plan to finance it? So government always tries to find this as an excuse. However, it's very good that we are now on the way to move to find solutions and to even provide solutions, how we can find additional financial resources and to make this social protection extension affordable and accessible for all. We also heard about legal frameworks and ILO legal instruments, which talks and indicates about right for social protection to all workers, despite their employment relationship or despite their employment in general, either it's formal or informal arrangements, particularly with focus on recommendation 202 and 204, which foreseen very gradual transition from the informal to the formal economy. We also heard about some experiences with reference to Ghana about taxation. It's a myth that informal economy workers don't pay taxes. They pay taxes in different ways. And we have even proof and study for this, particularly as Laura mentioned this case in Ghana. And this is, we can use really as an argument to approach our governments to really demand proper taxation, which should be progressive and inclusive. We also could hear about our role and responsibility, where we use our motto, nothing to us without us, where we have to be included in social dialogue, when we have to speak up on behalf of ourselves and represent ourselves. But for this, of course, we need to be organized and to use our collective strengths, collective power and voice to really influence the policy change including for social protection extension. We also could hear about social solidarity economy, which could be the alternative or that one of the strategy and approach to help ourselves, what we call some mutual units. For example, what we have experienced already in Nigeria, in Togo, and other countries, where our organizations try to use this approach and to secure at least some basic social protection for their members. Going to further speakers, thanks so much for your really sharing experiences, because we see that our affiliated organizations are progressing, and now they have really good experience to share, very good practices, which can be applicable to other countries, especially from the same region. Thanks a lot, Comrade Benga, for sharing your advocacy work and taking social protection extension as a priority on your organization and advocating and campaigning for it, with very big focus on maternity protection, on women, on also ensuring sustainability in a long run. Also, of course, Comrade Anthony mentioned, we couldn't hear you properly, but we know that Kenya has a lot of also experience to share. And what we could hear from Comrade Anthony, it's about Abana Haba. This is what I wrote, very nice term, very nice social protection scheme. So this is something we might promote also to share with other StreetNet affiliates, because it's a very interesting experience and scheme, including Linda Mama scheme, what was posted in the chat. Thanks, Comrade Anthony, for sharing with this. Also, we could hear from our Comrade Komi, very interesting presentation, and also emphasis he made on the values of social protection extension, including our values that we should promote and advocate for as solidarity, security, equity, and universality. This is exactly what we want, what we promote and advocate for as social protection extension. We heard very encouraging message from our dear president. Unfortunately, she has challenges to connect today, who always has very optimistic view, and we are very happy for this, because despite our challenges, we still need to mobilize, to push for advocacy, for campaigning, for social protection extension, for decent work, and for formalization, which should be very human-centered and very worker-centered, and gradual and fair, the way we see it and we promote it. I also would like to thank our additional participants who had the opportunity to share some experience, like Comrade Enoch from Ghana, like Comrade Willie from Benin, like Comrade Robert from Uganda, and others, and Comrade Wanda, who wants to hear more experiences. I just wanted to highlight that this is the topic, the issue that we are committed to continue. We would like to hear and collect more experiences, more actions to really to share, and to continue with such platforms as this one, in order to encourage our affiliates for more actions, for more collective voice. Because in StreetNet, we are also prioritizing social protection extension as one of the objectives under our strategic goal on advocacy and policy change. So in StreetNet at the global level, we are very committed for continuing this work, and we definitely hope that our partnership with Vigo, particularly with social protection team and with Laura Alfers will continue, even though Laura will be in other role, but this will only help us, I believe, more to really focus on social protection, as it's the one also very important topic that we are always prioritizing and encourage our affiliates to really advocate and negotiate for social extension. I thank our team for arranging this webinar, our media team, of course, Jane, thank you, Evelyn, who are responsible regional organizers for our 2 sub-regions in Africa. And we are committed to continue support, because one of our biggest role is to strengthen our organizations, to provide educational platforms, to raise awareness for our organizations around the world to progress, and we will continue this work. Nothing for us without us. Thanks to everyone.
Thank you, Oksana.
Merci, merci Oksana.
Merci, Oksana. If you want,
Merci beaucoup.
Take a collective picture.
Merci beaucoup.
Those who want to open their camera, those who have the possibility to do so, we can take a virtual selfie. I will wait, everybody. Very nice to see everyone. We're far away. Okay. 1, 2, 3. Smile.
I've arrived safely.
Samira!
I've arrived safely, Nairobi.
Samira, ça va?
Et chez toi, Marie-Louise?
Mitri,
Je vais bien, je vais bien, je vais bien.
Yes,
thank you so much.
Merci, Madame la coordinatrice, d'avoir invité.
Evelyn, Evelyn.
Margarita.
Evelyn,
Good day, good day.
Sarah, comment tu